SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21.
Hey, good morning. Good morning. Welcome in. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. I would like to say back like we never left, but unfortunately, it is not exactly like it was when we last visited. Thanks for joining us alongside Lance Tolbert. I am Richard Cross. The C Spire text line is open to you at 601-879-4395. Normally, I would just tell you that, hey, C Spire best in wireless and best in fiber to the home and best in business IT services, and those things are all true. But, man, the role that C Spire has played in North Mississippi, in the Delta, keeping people connected, hasn't been perfect. If perfection is what you're expecting, then you're kind of looking for the impossible. But pretty darn reliable, exceptionally darn reliable. That's what C Spire has been. With the ability to communicate for people that are otherwise trying to, walk through a minefield with a blindfold at night with no markers after you had to spin around with your forehead on a baseball bat for 30 seconds. It's kind of what it feels like, other than the fact that you can connect via text, via phone. You can make sure that people are okay. You can coordinate resources, all of those things. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net, rooted in our community. Lance Tolbert, good morning, my friend.
Good morning. I hope y'all had a little bit of a thaw yesterday. I know it was...
yesterday was a good day.
Not as much as needed, but I bet there were lots of chainsaws and people working and neighbors helping neighbors and C Spire working as it always does. Thank goodness.
Yeah, all of those things... certainly across my hometown of Oxford, but Oxford not the only place that was affected by this. A lot of folks in a lot of different areas greatly affected and without power or water or both in some cases, and they're just trying to figure out how to get by. And you got a lot of neighbors that are being good to each other, just kind of roaming bands of chainsawers. I think you would be part of that, Lance. You fit the bill for a roaming band of chainsaw operators.
And I wish I could help. I feel terrible not being able to be there and get it done. But it is what it is. As they say, stay off the roads until it's safe. I know that the power outages have come down significantly since yesterday, which is good. It's not enough, but they're working hard and you see progress being made. And like I said, I truly wish I was there helping out and doing what I could, because I know people need it.
Regardless of the community in which you live, one quick reminder. If you come to an intersection in which all of the traffic signals are dark, they have no power, treat that intersection as a four-way or all-way stop. I'll give you a little leeway if you're on a dark road and there's no traffic and you come to a traffic light and it's clear that there's nobody coming on and you want to keep on rolling, especially on slick roads, sure thing. But if there is traffic, if you see people coming from each direction, it becomes a four-way stop if there's no power to the light. Everybody stop as you pull up. Saves accidents. Saves middle fingers, saves angry shaking fists and all of the other things.
Yeah, and it's that time. You got to just relax right now with traffic. It's especially in those areas. Don't get upset at somebody, and definitely yield as much as possible.
Yeah. So what about the weather today? South Haven, you've got some clouds this morning, going to give way to mainly sunny skies in the afternoon. That certainly will be welcome. As if we needed another weather element, here you go. Areas of freezing fog with a high of 39. Winds light and variable. Oxford, you got some clouds this morning, going to be mainly sunny this afternoon. Again, potential for areas of freezing fog. By the way, I did not see that on the way in. Short drive this morning, but nevertheless. High of 43, winds light and variable for you. Hattiesburg, a little farther down, going to be a little warmer. Some clouds this morning, giving way to sunny skies this afternoon, 53 degrees. Winds out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Should make for a good afternoon for Southern Miss baseball to practice as the season opener approaches, just a couple of weeks away. Hattiesburg, Gulfport, sunny skies for you with a high of 54 degrees and a breeze out of the northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Last couple of days in the northern part of the state have been ideal. You would take a warmer day, but the bright sunshine, man, I think I said yesterday, Lance, the good Lord knew what he was doing when that ball of fire was placed in the middle of our universe, of our solar system. Because even though it was 2 days ago below freezing, that sunshine did a lot of melting of the ice on those trees, and that continued yesterday.
Yeah, it's amazing how much difference it is when the sun is direct on something versus being in the shade.
Yep.
I mean, I can sit there and tell you it's 10, 12 degree different, it feels like. So I'm just happy that we don't have cloud cover. The sun is coming out, gets you some nourishment, and melts a lot of the nasty. Yep. Adds another problem, though, at night when it refreezes. You just got to be super careful.
Yeah. Jackson Pollock was born on this day in 1912, the American expressionist painter in Cody, Wyoming. I believe the late Mike Leach either was born or lived for a while in Cody, Wyoming. I think that's where he lived for a while, one of the places he was growing up. 1936, Emmy Award-winning actor and director Alan Alda. Perhaps you remember him from remember him as Captain Hawkeye Pierce in MASH, or from West Wing. He was born in New York City.
It's a great name, too, because he's very squinty-eyed, and he got the name Hawkeye. So I always loved that when I was a kid.
He was good.
No, he's a good one, yeah.
Carlos Slim, that may be a name that you recognize, may not be. He's 86 years old today, born in 1940. He is maybe the most successful non-drug-producing businessman in the history of Mexico.
And the first guy with the last name Slim.
That is decidedly not. American Mobile is his company, once ranked as the richest person in the world. He was born in Mexico City. He brought American cell service to Mexico, basically. And in 1968, Sarah McLachlan was born. Canadian and Grammy Award-winning folk singer and songwriter. I don't know that folk is the way that I would describe her, but I'll go with it. Probably her most famous, I Will Remember You. I know, I'm not supposed to sing on the air. She was born in Halifax, Nova Scotia. A few things happened on this day. Lots of things have happened on this day, a few that stood out to me. In 1671, the Welsh pirate Henry Morgan captured Panama City from its Spanish defenders. More importantly, though, the on-bottle logo for Captain Morgan was created.
There you go. Iconic.
I mean, if you look at Welsh pirate Henry Morgan, there is your Captain Morgan.
That's him.
In 1813, Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, published by Thomas Egerton in the United Kingdom. I would say that is one that has stood the test of time. In 1956, Elvis Presley made his first appearance on national television on the Dorsey Brothers stage show. 1969, O.J. Simpson became the first pick in the NFL draft. Drafted out of Southern Cal by the Buffalo Bills. How about this one? 1984, Edmonton Oilers center Wayne Gretzky's NHL record point scoring streak ends at 51 games. The Oilers were beaten by the LA Kings, ironically enough, the future team of Wayne Gretzky. Final score of 4-2. The stat line during the 51-game point-scoring streak, 61 goals, 92 assists, 153 total points. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. Glad to be with you. Glad to be back with you this morning.
Just don't think you'd understand. And if you tell my heart, my achy, breaky heart, he might blow up and kill his man. Don't tell my heart, my achy, breaky heart, just don't think you'd understand. And if you tell my heart, my achy, breaky heart, he might blow up and kill this man.
From the Venable...
Reaching across the state and across the aisle. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Glad to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross. Quick check of the C Spire text line. 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. Finally got RC back in the morning on the radio. One step closer to normality. I appreciate the sentiment. I have no idea what normal is anymore. We just kind of day to day and try to take care of the activities that we are supposed to take care of and the responsibilities that we're supposed to take care of. I don't know. Kevin in Tupelo sends us a link from a post on Facebook. This is a parent, I believe, of an Ole Miss college student. I believe that's right. I'm fighting with the microphone in here. Back in the studio that was home for a really long time, and it's like having to get my bearings again. So it was a Facebook post that was it showed a bunch of items that were purchased at a gas station. I can't verify the truth to it, so I'm not going to throw that gas station under the bus unless we learn more. And the premise of the post was students have been stuck in their house. They got out. They walked to a gas station. Gas station didn't have power, but there was an attendant there who was trading in cash. Let them go in, pick out the items that they wanted. They had to pay for them in cash. They had to scrape it all together as a group. They paid for it, and they just got a bunch of junk. I told them it was $125. They put some of it back. They had $90. They bought $90 worth of Oreos and mac and cheese and whatever else. I don't want to throw around accusations like price gouging. But if you are, you're the scum of the earth. Don't do that. That's why I didn't call the gas station out specifically by name. But don't do that. And yes, there is an opportunity for legal recourse. I think that would be very difficult because you're having to prove it. And you would have to actually prove that they were gouging and be able to, the whole deal. Flip side of that story, Lance, we have almost as many Dollar Generals, Dollar Generals in Mississippi as we have actual people. We are closing in on the point where there is one Dollar General for every person that lives in Mississippi, which is probably a good thing. Stopped in one a couple of days ago. One guy running the place. I was told that the manager, who wasn't there, I think his name was John, had been sleeping at the store since Thursday night to make sure that they were stocked, they were open. Nobody took advantage of the fact that they were open, and as soon as it was safe to do so, he unlocked the doors and said, hey, you come get what we got. So I go in there, lights are out. You are left to the devices of whatever light source you have, so a light on your cell phone probably. Go in, get the things you need. The man at the register has a barcode scanner up on his phone. He scans the items, writes them down on a little mini notepad, tallies it up at the end, figures out the tax on the calculator, and then says, rounds it to the nearest whatever, the nearest dollar, and says $44. And again, they were cash only. Their credit card machines were down because no power, no internet, all that good stuff. And I just thought, you got people out here that are trying to figure out how to get some water or how to get bacon or they need paper supplies or whatever. And this guy's standing here making it possible. Well done, sir. I wish I had his name.
I mean, Dollar General saves the day. And being that kind of a manager or that kind of an employee, I mean, that's going the extra mile. Mm-hmm. You have the opportunity to say no or price gouge or, just get a few things. This is all I got. No. Makes it happen instead of, like you were saying, with the gas station. I mean, there's a time and place where you need people like that, and Dollar General coming to the rescue. That's awesome. They are, though. I will say they pop up all over, and every time I'm around them, there are cars all the time in them. So,
well, the whole business model is, hey, we're just going to come to you.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter if you live in a rural area. We'll come to you.
Yeah, I mean, out in the county of Rankin, I'll drive around a good bit, and it'll maybe a month or two before I go through an area, and I noticed one that had just popped up the other day, just out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah. Cars everywhere. The whole community's like, man, I love it.
There's a good chance a buddy of mine poured the concrete slab foundation for that, wherever it popped up.
Yeah, on 25, actually, headed toward Carthage.
Yeah. 1985, We Are the World, the charity single recorded by a supergroup from the United States for Africa, including Michael Jackson, Lionel Richie, Quincy Jones, Bruce Springsteen, Stevie Wonder. There were other pop stars. It was a who's who of the day, and that eventually became the anthem for the Hands Across America event.
I remember that.
I do, too.
Yeah. Quincy Jones, I think he was the producer, organizer, and pulled all that together, which I've watched the story.
It's impressive.
There's like a documentary somewhere on Hulu or Netflix. It's really impressive, though, what all it took to get that together. Such a good song, too.
We are the world. How about this? 40 years ago today.
Mm-hmm.
Or is that 41? So it happened in 1986. We're in 41 years ago today.
40, right? I'm 51. Yeah. I was laying at the house when this happened. I got to stay. My parents would let me stay home to watch the space shuttle launches, and then Dad would come home at lunch, take me to school.
Today in 1986, the Space Shuttle Challenger exploded 73 seconds after liftoff. Took off from Cape Canaveral, Florida, killing all 7 of its crew members, including, God rest her soul, Krista McAuliffe, who was to be the first teacher in space. And that particular shuttle launch, even though I feel like mid-'80s was like the height of people's interest in space shuttle launches, they still weren't super common. But this one, the interest level was heightened because of Krista McAuliffe, and you had schools all over the country, from kindergarten to high school, who had done special units on space exploration and NASA and shuttles and astronauts and all of those things. And so kind of as a reward or the payoff at the end of those units was, hey, we're all going to watch the space shuttle launch into air, and we're going to get to follow this journey of Krista McAuliffe. And then, poof.
As we all sat there hoping and praying that the astronauts were going to make it through that.
Yeah, I mean, and you want to talk about the mind doing weird things. You're like, you see that explosion, and you're like, oh, is there any chance they made it? No, there's no chance that they made it. And what was it? Because a set of O-rings that had gone bad?
A faulty O-ring, if I remember. On the solid rocket booster, I think that's what it was.
Yeah. 2003, in his State of the Union address, President George W. Bush announced the president's emergency plans for AIDS relief. That was called PEPFAR, plan that went on to save 25 million lives worldwide as of this time about 3 years ago. It may be a program that was taken advantage of, but there is no doubt it was highly successful as well. 2017 Australian Open women's tennis. Serena Williams defeats her older sister Venus Williams 6-4, 6-4 for her 7th Australian title and a record 23rd Grand Slam event singles victory.
Those two were intense, too. I can only imagine the luncheon that they had to sit through a couple days later.
Oh, man. And isn't the dad Richard?
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got him, too, yes. They were like, Dad, you can't come to this. This is a girls-only lunch.
You're going to have to sit this one out, Pops. Going to have to sit this one out. And news headlines for you coming up next. We'll also have your morning sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort, online at pearlriverresort.com. Some interesting things happening in the world of sports. We'll get to more of your messages. C Spire text line 601-879-4395. We're back with you on a Country Music Wednesday. That part's normal. Right after this.
But I'm pretty good at drinking beer. A go-getter. Well, maybe I'm not. I'm not known for doing a lot. But I do my best work when the weather's hot. I'm pretty good at drinking beer.
From thesebro.com.
Now, mornings with Richard Cross. What's up?
Let's get the show going.
Super Talk, Mississippi.
Headlines for you this morning. Officials announcing yesterday that health departments in 15 counties in northern Mississippi would be closed again today. Persisting hazardous conditions along with lingering effects of Winter Storm Fern have prompted the closing of those health departments. It includes Alcorn, Bolivar, Coahoma, DeSoto, Lafayette, Panola, Prentice, Quitman, Sharkey, Tate, Tallahatchie, Tippah, Tishomingo, Union, and Washington counties. So basically, if you are in the northern part of the Delta or the northern part of the state of Mississippi, your local county health department is closed today. Also closed today, the driver's service locations in a number of cities. Again, North Mississippi primarily. If you need a driver's license or a learner's permit, today is not the day to do that. Department of Public Safety says that because of the weather conditions, the locations in Batesville, Cleveland, Corinth, Greenville, Greenwood, Grenada, Nesbitt, New Albany, Olive Branch, Oxford, and Tupelo all closed today. So, just be patient. That's another one. That is the word of the week, and it is not necessarily a word that we love in the old vocabulary. That's patience, and just hang in there. Bills have been introduced in both chambers of the Mississippi legislature, in which we are discussing midwives. House Bill 418, Senate Bill 2553 would allow certified nurse midwives to practice independently as advanced practice registered nurses without needing a written collaborative agreement with a physician. A midwife, of course, a healthcare professional that treats women during pregnancy and childbirth. In some cases, they provide help for newborns as well after the birth of a new child. In Mississippi, certified nurse midwives are only allowed to work within the boundaries of their expertise if they have collaborated with a practicing physician. It's prompted a federal lawsuit against the Mississippi State Board of Medical Licensure. Lawsuit aims to prove that collaborative agreement is unnecessary given that nurse midwives are thoroughly trained before getting to the practicing stage of their careers. The plaintiffs in the lawsuit also argued that few Mississippi physicians are willing to collaborate with the midwives, adding that those who are often attach a large fee to it. The Federal Trade Commission has weighed in, contending that Mississippi's law requiring forced collaborative agreements is unfair. Republican Representative Dan Eubanks from DeSoto County, the author of House Bill 418, said the only context in which certified nurse midwives can possibly work is under the thumb of a physician, and we've got to change that in order to end the maternal crisis before it worsens. This will only happen when we exempt them from the collaborative practice agreement law. I have multiple questions here. How prevalent is the use of a midwife?
Well, we've had on Mary's show, we had a midwife, one that works with them, and it's the opportunity to use one is there quite a bit. It's not something that is in play as much because of the restrictions, but we've had some guests on that have explained it in great detail, and it sounds like it could be a conduit to, you know, some of the problems that we have with infant mortality, having a little bit more, hands on deck and the ability to help in these instances where it's needed. Again, it's not something that you're seeing regularly, but apparently the midwives are out there, they're ready to help, and that's part of the issue here. That's from what I can tell you.
I mean, I guess my question is, when I think about having a baby, a woman having a baby, I think about, okay, we're going to go to the hospital, and hopefully her OB is on call and will be the one that delivers. I don't think, I sure do wish we could stay home and have this baby in the bathtub. Yeah. Some do. I have a family member that has gone through that process and used a doula, I believe it was. Is that right? Is that what, another name for a midwife, or within the midwife family? Anyway, I understand that there are people that prefer that. I just don't understand it.
Well, Sisters in Birth is who we have had on, Getty Israel. She was on with us, and there's a good bit of information out there, but Sisters in Birth gives you a little idea of one of the organizations that's out there. And it was unique to me when I heard it. I'm like you. I was like, really? I didn't know that there was such a need, but apparently there is a need in communities that, for midwifery, and also on the postpartum side.
I'm sorry, did you say midwifery?
Isn't that what it's called? I'm sorry.
I'm 100% on board with that. I just don't think I expected to hear you say midwifery this morning.
Yeah, that's a long word. I'm sorry. It's a $6 word. I think it's something we should learn more about. And yes, I am right.
Do we call the profession of welding weldery?
No, but this says the midwifery approach, so I am right on that. Let's see.
I'm not questioning
I thought
you.
I was. No, I thought I had made up a word there for a minute.
Lance, I got to go see my CPA, and we got to do a little accountery today.
And there's a got to do a little midwifery today. Certified nurse and midwives. That's one of the approaches there.
No, I'm not knocking it. I'm making jokes all over the place, but I'm not knocking the field of midwifery. Not at all. And
what I can say is it's the advanced practice of nursing that specializes in providing primary sexual and reproductive care to people from all communities, from the teenage years through menopause and beyond. So I guess there's a bigger need out there than what something you and I have seen. And I know in our community here in Jackson, that was apparently there is a greater need for it here, and other communities. So, something I learned, on the fly there.
All right, morning sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort, online at pearlriverresort.com. Pearl River Resort, your home for casino thrills, family fun, and live entertainment. Also of heat and water. I'm just thinking if you're in North Mississippi and you are tired of it and you don't have power and you're ready to walk away from it, maybe Pearl River Resort is the place to go to get away for a couple of days. PearlRiverResort.com. Ole Miss and Trinidad Chambliss are still awaiting a decision by the NCAA to accept or deny an appeal to an earlier decision to reject an eligibility request by the quarterback. That's a lot of words. Chambliss wants a 6th year. He's only played 3. Wants 1 more year of eligibility. Separate from the appeal, however, Chambliss's legal team has taken the quarterback's case to state court after a filing for a temporary injunction that would prevent the NCAA from prohibiting the star signal caller from playing for the Rebels this upcoming year. Court date's been set. February 12th, 9:30 a.m., Calhoun County Courthouse in Pittsboro. Pittsboro, the county seat of Calhoun County. In an additional filing on Tuesday, lawyers representing Chambliss, that's William Liston and Tom Mars, argued that the standout Ole Miss quarterback is not going to receive a fair assessment by the NCAA, saying that they have already proven in the way that they have publicly released information that they are against this, and they will shape the narrative in a way that is detrimental to the case of Chambliss. We'll see where it goes.
Seems like an obvious one, but apparently not.
Yeah, I mean, I would think that the outcome is could be good for Ole Miss. I would think. The Ole Miss women's basketball team has announced another schedule change. Coach Yo's team will face number 5 Vanderbilt on Friday in Birmingham at Legacy Arena. 2 o'clock tip-off in the afternoon. The game was originally scheduled to be played in Oxford on Thursday night, moved due to the lingering effects of Winter Storm Fern. This is after Ole Miss postponed Monday night's matchup against Tennessee to a date that is yet to be announced. Admission will be free. It will be on the SEC Network Plus. And Ole Miss bounced back from a loss at Georgia with a big win against Missouri this past Thursday. This was going to be a big week. I think Ole Miss was going to play 3 home games in the course of 7 days. And now there is concern as to whether or not they'll be able to play any. Maybe it was just 2. Maybe it was the Monday night game and the Thursday night game. But regardless, going to be playing in Birmingham. Grab you another couple of sports headlines coming up and check in with our friends at the Mississippi Lottery. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi. Thanks for being with us on this Wednesday, January 28th edition of MRC.
Grab another cup of coffee and start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk Mississippi.
Back on Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Appreciate you joining the conversation this morning on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Your Mississippi Lottery update brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery, online at mslottery.com. When was it Saturday that there was a Powerball winner? I think that's right. Anyway, new jackpot, relatively small. Tonight's drawing $43 million. And when I say relatively small, I mean in comparison to the really big Powerball jackpots. Who among us would not be willing to accept a $43 million jackpot? Estimated cash value, a little under $19.5 million. Monday night's drawing numbers were 21, 31, 51, 60, and 63 with a Powerball of 18. Mega Millions, now it is starting to creep. It's in that neighborhood where I've made the joke before. My buddy said, I don't play a jackpot less than $300 million. Anything less than that would just make me a jerk. But it's in that neighborhood now, $303 million for the Mega Millions jackpot. Next drawing coming up on Friday with an estimated cash value of $136.7 million. Launching, we got new scratch-off games that are coming February 3rd. 3 new ones. The $2 The Three Stooges ticket featuring 6 collectible designs of Moe, Larry, and Curly. Prizes up to $25,000. The $1 Rapid Refund prizes up to $5,000, and the $5 Lady Luck with $100,000 top prizes. Plus, you've got the new bonus promotion. The Three Stooges ticket starts the new bonus promotion, awarding more than $125,000 in cash prizes. Non-winning tickets in the lottery second chance portal for a chance to win $10,000. So good stuff there. You had last night 3 basketball games in the SEC. Arkansas won a close win over Oklahoma. Poor Oklahoma. They are in almost every game in which they play, and they lose all of them. They are 1-7 in the SEC. Arkansas 83-79. Vanderbilt smoking the Kentucky Wildcats last night at Memorial. 80-55 the final. Commodores are now 5-3 in the SEC, 18-3 overall. Bama big at home over Missouri. 90-64 was the final. Games coming up tonight. 5 of them in the SEC. Mississippi State and LSU from Baton Rouge, the 6 o'clock tip-off on the SEC Network Plus. This one's streaming. 6 o'clock on the SEC Network, Tennessee's at Georgia. ESPN2, you've got Texas and Auburn. And on the SEC Network at 8 o'clock, Florida is at South Carolina. Ole Miss had the midweek off. This was their opening. I guess it came at a good time with the weather and all of the concerns related to that. That is your morning sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort, online at pearlriverresort.com. Oh, there's one other. How about Bill Belichick? Eligible for the first time to be inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame? And the committee said, reportedly. You must hit 40 of 50 votes, a threshold of 80%, and it was almost a foregone conclusion that the man with 8 Super Bowl rings, 6 of them as a head coach, would be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Several sources who spoke with Bill Belichick described him as puzzled and disappointed, saying 6 Super Bowls isn't enough. What does a guy have to do? Another source familiar with Belichick's thinking says politics kept him out. He doesn't believe This is a reflection on his accomplishments. There is a line of thinking that some people say that Belichick needs to get in, will get in, but did not deserve to get in on the very first opportunity so that he could be called a first-ballot Hall of Famer or a unanimous first-ballot Hall of Famer because of the cheating scandals. Deflategate. What was the other one? There were two big ones. Why can I not remember?
It wasn't like spying, was it?
Oh, yeah, Spygate.
Yeah, Spygate, yeah.
You had Spygate and Deflategate. Almost like he was going to be willing to just kind of do whatever it takes. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. 7 o'clock hour is on the way. We'll visit with Rodney Hall, representative from DeSoto County. Also later in the show, Keith Hayward and Robyn Tannehill from Northeast Power and the city of Oxford, respectively. Back with you after this.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Take a deep dive into the news and debates driving the day, all on your ride to work. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
Have mercy on me when it comes across and the good golly woman that just scares the devil right out of me.
Again, it is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Glad to have you along for the ride. I'm glad to be with you this morning. I, again, want to say thank you to Dave Hughes. He normally fills in on this show on Fridays, and appreciate very much him sliding in and doing that Monday and, again, yesterday, Tuesday of this week. The plan is for me to be with you for the remainder of the week, including
Friday? Uh-oh.
Yeah. No. Yes, I'm going to be with you on Friday also. And I should say to our bosses, my bosses here at Super Talk, thanks for being so flexible with me. Man, it's been a hard few days. And I don't know if that's something that I necessarily like to admit, but something's difficult. But I think I can say that collectively, for all of those affected by the winter storm that dropped so much ice, sleet, freezing rain, and a little bit of snow, a very little bit of snow over the last few days. I saw a post on, I guess it was on X last night, that came from a Mississippi Delta-based X account. Is it Delta Strong? MS Delta Strong, I think it was. And it was I don't want to be offensive in the way. Yeah, the Delta Strong Twitter account, MS Delta Strong. It was a cry for attention, but I don't think it was I don't think in a bad way. There has been a lot of national coverage that has centered on Oxford. And I think most people have kind of said Oxford, for this massive storm that affected 200 million people, was kind of ground zero for the whole thing. Doesn't mean that there weren't other areas that were affected. I think, and this is what I'm choosing to believe, because I'm just choosing to believe the good in people right now. This is not you're talking about them too much and you're not giving us any attention. I don't think that's what this is, this post on X is from MS Delta Strong. I think it is a reminder of, hey, there are a lot of groups around the country that are gathering supplies, putting together shipments of necessary items, offering help in rebuilding, debris removal, tree removal, chainsaw services, all of these things. And there are more areas that could use your help beyond just Oxford that has gotten so much of the national attention. The Post said, we know Oxford has experienced an awful storm, but the damage is also epic in towns like Rolling Fork, Belzona, Greenwood, Grenada, Pontotoc, and so many others up to the Tennessee River. Now that the roads are clear, maybe the media can report accordingly. And they tag the the National Weather Service in Jackson and the National Weather Service in Memphis. I don't know about the whole media can report accordingly. Maybe there hasn't been any conversation about that. I think, and Lance, I've not obviously been with you guys for the entirety of the show the last 2 days, but I think you and Dave have tried to make sure that everybody knows that there are a lot of areas that have been affected. If our conversation has centered around Oxford, it's probably my fault because it's where I live.
Well, and you also have the highest concentration of people there as well, in a tight area. And so you had so much coming out media-wise of pictures, images, folks that were, there, videoing and everything. So I think that has something to do with it. But yes, I mean, from Issaquena, Sharkey, Humphreys, Carroll County, LaFleur, Yazoo, Holmes, all the way up through Tippah, Benton, Lafayette, Panola, Tallahatchie. Grenada County's coming around right now. It's out of the red now. And then LaFleur and Tallahatchie. So you've got a swath at a diagonal there from Issaquena all the way up to Tippah. Yep. And we've tried to cover that. Anybody that's given us messages, talk to us. We welcome. Please show us the images. Tell us how it's going for you out there. And if there's anything you need, get in touch with us. If we can help you in any way, we're here for you.
Yeah. Absolutely want to do that. C-Spire text line perhaps is the best way to do it, 601-879-4395. We are more than happy to tell your story. So like I said, the news outlets have basically centered on Oxford. I think there are a couple of reasons for that, actually. And the biggest is if you're talking about a Fox Weather or a Weather Channel, they don't always do it this way, but you have to remember that is a national broadcast, and there is a resonance or a familiarity for a lot of people nationally with Ole Miss, with the Square, with, this is the former home of William Faulkner, or, whatever, that connects with people in another part of the country. I don't think it's an exclusion of, in Belzona, I don't think that is the thing. I think more than anything, it's about connecting with viewers across the entire country to try to tell the story of a region. I don't think this is a Mississippi as a landmass deal. The area between New Orleans and the Florida Panhandle, just the landmass. I don't think that's what this is, or at least not intentionally. I don't think that's what this is. But, again, we want to tell your story. Let us know. C-Spire text line, 601-879-4395. I will tell you this. We saw last night in some of the news reports that had nothing to do with Oxford in particular. Well, I guess they did kind of loosely. But more DeSoto County, and you want an illustration of just how bad the roads were last night? Between Memphis or, South Haven, Hernando, and Batesville, hours upon hours of standstill gridlock. There was a news reporter from Memphis that said, this was at 6:45, Bad situation unfolding on northern Mississippi interstates. Folks have been stuck for hours, especially on I-55 northbound from near Batesville all the way up through Tate County, where you've got Senatobia and Como right there on the interstate. From a Panola County Sheriff's Office a few hours ago, the interstate is at a standstill on the northbound side. Vehicles are stuck, and there isn't a way to get to them. We don't have an ETA on when it will be open again. Folks inevitably are going to start running out of gas. Temperatures going into the high teens tonight. And then they were looking for a story if there was anybody that was following along that was stuck in that traffic right now. And then you had the governor, Tate Reeves, last night, who said he had just stepped out of a strategy meeting where they were talking about getting in and trying to fix what was going on the interstates. And let's see. Do I have the exact wording of it here? I think I can get to it, Lance. But basically, he said that they were going to deploy helicopters and tools to move cars to try and get the thing going. And it was a disaster. Here it was. Just got off a coordinating call with law enforcement, MDOT, MEMA, and National Guard leadership. Assets have been swarmed from drones to first responders to wreckers in order to clear the stalled vehicles in North Mississippi on I-55 and assist those stranded on the road. Try to avoid it at all costs. And then there was a news release from the Mississippi Department of Public Safety last night from Commissioner Sean Tindall. It said, due to the winter weather that has impacted our state, our roads in North Mississippi are extremely dangerous. If you are on I-55 north of Batesville or on I-22 north of Lake Center, please turn around. Road crews are currently working to remove stranded vehicles from the interstate. These roadways are in extremely dangerous condition. Other state highways and county roads may also present similar conditions. Please only travel in North Mississippi if necessary and use extreme caution. That was last night. And it got cold overnight, which means the roads are not in great shape this morning either. Representative Rodney Hall will join us next. He represents part of DeSoto County. We'll talk about this and other things coming up next. It's Mornings with Richard Cross.
From Duck Hill to Alligator, Mississippians start their day the right way. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
But when I close my eyes late at night, you can bet I thank my maker. She keeps on loving me, loves me the way I am.
Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net, rooted in our community. Thanks for joining us. Happy to welcome our first guest this morning. He hails from DeSoto County. Representative Rodney Hall, Vice Chair of the Military Affairs Committee. Mr. Vice Chairman, good to be with you this morning. I think the last time we visited was on the street in New Orleans. A little bit different circumstance right now. Obviously, the session ongoing, but also the northern part of the state of Mississippi dealing with some pretty serious after effects from the winter storm that came through. Appreciate you making some time for us this morning.
Hey, Richard, it's good to be back with you. Yes, it was definitely warmer times the last time we saw each other.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. We're going through some things up here in DeSoto County, but we're getting after it.
Yeah, and that was a chilly New Orleans even right there at the Sugar Bowl. So let's start with kind of a general update from DeSoto County. What you and all of your constituents, your neighbors, your friends, your family, your fellow DeSoto County residents are dealing with right now.
I mean, Richard, you see it. You're over there in Oxford, and I'm sure you're getting the same reports that I am. The state, the county, municipal emergency declarations are in effect. There's a lot of cross coordination between MDOT, MEMA, law enforcement. I heard the National Guard, they're on the way today. And there's a big focus on power restoration, road clearing, warming fitters, and really just public safety. I have been looking at reports, both either coming to me directly or what I find on the internet. And I know that people are really out there giving everything that they have, working around the clock, trying to fix things as quickly as possible. And, I think a lot of gratitude needs to go out to our linemen, our first responders, public work crews, emergency managers, everyone who's really putting it all on the line. But, I understand from many residents that it looks like total chaos.
Yeah.
And to a degree, it is. It's a very bad storm. Richard, what I would like to see once we're through all the immediate danger is something that I'm very used to doing in the military. It's called an after-action review, or AAR. We need to bring everyone to the table, legislators, governor's office, National Guard, MEMA, MDOT, municipal government, county workers, utility workers, every stakeholder with a responsibility in a crisis like this, mainly to identify the weak points, figure out what worked, what didn't, what resources were missing, and what systems have failed. And not to point fingers, but to make sure that we're prepared next time this happens again. If we don't honestly assess what went wrong and fix it, it's not a weather problem, it's a leadership problem. And so that's what we need to continue to work on the public safety piece right now, get out of the thick of the storm, out of the fight, but then afterwards we need to come to the table and come with some solutions.
I think that's well said. There was plenty of notice leading into this event. The forecast, a solid 5 days out, gave us a heads up that not only was this likely, but it was imminent. And you get to a point where people are like, hey, we knew about this. How are we not back online a little bit faster? There is an element of this where when it is an ice event as opposed to a snow event or a sleet event, there are some things that, we can't control the number of trees that were just split and fell on power lines. What's some of that after action going to look like, knowing that part of this is just not controllable and it's something that we just have to deal with and have to have some patience on?
Yeah, you bring up a good point. This is extremely hard. This is an extremely hard situation to manage or to even get ahead of. But I've spoken with folks across the state in years past, and I have a friend down in Coldwater. He chases storms all across the nation, and he has this system that creates like a splint for these telephone poles in order to make sure that they can remain standing and operational while we wait for replacements to come in. We also have a company down there in Batesville, Whisper. They create drones in right here in Mississippi. And I'm sorry, but drones are kind of like the cavalry was back in the day. I don't think any sheriff's office or police department and every National Guard armory, they should all have drones so that we can get accurate images on the ground and figure out where to flex our resources. Storms like these are impossible to get everything right, but I do think that we owe it to our citizens to come together, try to find out where the weak points were, what resources we have that we didn't bring to bear, and then how we can mitigate that in the future moving forward.
Visiting with Rodney Hall. He is a state representative, represents District 20, vice chair of Military Affairs Committee. He's got a military background. You heard that in his answer just a moment ago about that after-action report. Do you have an update this morning on the traffic situation on Interstate 55 and Interstate 22? We saw the reports last night that because of numerous accidents, there was absolute gridlock from basically Batesville to into Tate County and maybe even into DeSoto County, and then also kind of running east-west on I-22 in some of the affected areas. Have you heard how much progress has been made?
Reports are still forthcoming regarding I-55. I had a buddy who tried to get down there, down to Jackson yesterday, and he stopped at Hernando, turned around and said it was impossible to go. He couldn't go any further. He came back home. I know last night that they were gridlocked, people waiting on the interstate for hours. I do know that they're getting after it this morning with removing that gridlock and trying to evacuate folks off of the interstate, but I don't think we're out of the gray yet.
That's a really difficult situation. And, I was talking with some friends yesterday, and it's like a major tornado came through but different than normally when we deal with tornadoes, you've got the freezing temperatures that go along with it that just exacerbate the entire situation and make it so difficult, where it's not just you're without power, you're without heat, and people are trying to figure out whatever they can to make sure that their family and their neighbors are taken care of. It's a hard spot to be in.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And, you know, the thing is, again, this is one of those unprecedented storms that we don't see but every decade or two, but we also did have notice. So, again, when I talk about doing this AAR, I just want to make sure that we're doing everything possible in the future to help our citizens in Mississippi avoid some of the pain points that we've had or that we're witnessing currently today with this ice storm.
Yeah. One of the things that has struck me as encouraging and a little uplifting is, and I'm not surprised by it because it's kind of what we do in Mississippi and especially in other southern states. We see it in Louisiana. We've seen it before in Alabama. And that's people kind of coming together to rally in difficult times. The whole neighbors helping neighbors thing. And, okay, let's, let me get out of my driveway, and then let's make sure that with a team of friends we can make sure that everybody else can get out of their driveway. And we can try to help without getting in the way of the linemen or the local law enforcement that are trying to get to the people they need. Have you seen that in your part of DeSoto County as well?
That is so true. That is the beauty of Mississippi and our folks, the resolve that we have at an individual level to go out there and help your neighbor. I have seen, through all of this mess, not only just the city workers, municipal workers, county workers getting after it, but then also you just have neighbors helping neighbors, whether that's with evacuating people out their homes because they don't have power, making sure people have things to eat, running to stores to get supplies for their neighbors. They're doing it, man. Our people are strong. They have a tough resolve, and they're not going to be put down by this kind of storm. And they're not just going to sit back and wait for, government entities to perform their duties to help everyone out. They're doing their part.
One of the things that we hear from local leaders in spots like this are, hey, stay off the roads unless you absolutely have to travel. Be sure to give plenty of clearance. But the truth of the matter is our emergency responders really do need the help of local citizens within neighborhoods. You got to be careful about how that happens, but it has to be an effort where everybody's just trying to get out and pitch in as best they can, right?
Yeah, I got a report yesterday that someone was telling me, with the power outages and some of the other other families and communities struggling, that, they had to send a report up. Some people just don't have power or cell phone service to send a report. And so they're relying on their neighbor, relying on, their friends to get that information out. And so, again, that's why I just think that once we're past all this, we need to sit down and come up with a plan and see where we can improve on challenges like this in the future.
Yeah. We're going to continue the conversation with State Representative Rodney Hall. He represents District 20, that's DeSoto County, or part of DeSoto County. He's Vice Chair of Military Affairs. I know it feels like the focus is on weather, but the legislative session is going on. We're almost a month into this session, which is hard to believe. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening in Jackson and what some of the priorities are that Representative Hall is focused on. We'll do that on the other side of this timeout. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. We're back with you. More MRC right after this on SuperTalk Mississippi.
From the Seabrook.com.
Of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Good morning, Mississippi. You're starting your day off right. Welcome to Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
For a while, maybe longer if I do.
Appreciate you being with us this morning. Rodney Hall is my guest, a member of the Mississippi House of Representatives. He is vice chair of the Military Affairs Committee, represents District 20, that is DeSoto County, or at least part of DeSoto County, and appreciate his time this morning. Mr. Representative, let's switch gears from the weather story for a moment, if we can, to the legislature. I mentioned before the break, we're almost to the end of January, which means we are nearly a month into this year's 3-month session. Education certainly has dominated the conversation, but it's not the only thing that's going on in Jackson right now. Let's start, though, with the big topic. We know that the House passed its omnibus bill for education reform, school choice, a big piece of that in Mississippi. It has gone to the Senate. Everything we've heard is that the Senate is not going to pass this bill as is, but we do know that the Senate has put together a number of bills that address many of the things that are in the House Bill 2, that kind of got this session started as well. Where are you and your colleagues right now in terms of what's going on the education conversation and the possibility of working with the Senate to get some resolution that is good for the people of Mississippi?
Yeah, Richard, this session did start off with a bang. I think the Senate, they came in day one and started passing bills while we were, getting our ducks in the row and preparing our big bill, at least the education bill, which we have been working on all last year. But, like you said, that's not the only thing that's going. We still have a lot of committee work that's going on. I sat through education last week. They had, I want to say, 1 or 2 hearings, and they finished up in committee a handful of bills down there, which are also getting ready to come to the floor. When you talk about what the House versus what the Senate's doing, one thing that I pride myself on, and one thing I'm very proud to be in the House caucus with, is our ability to take the big swing and not be scared to, really get after some of Mississippi problems and really try to move Mississippi forward. And so that's what we have been doing on the House side. And so I've been hearing some of the same reports on our education bill going over to the Senate. Right now, I'm still focused on the work that we're doing in the House because we have our deadlines that we have to hit in order to get our bills over to them, just like they have to get their bills over to us. But I think it'll buff itself out towards the end of session.
Do you get a sense, talking with some of your fellow House members, that there is a desire to work with the Senate? Sometimes that is a little bit of a contentious relationship between the two sides of the Capitol, that there's enough middle ground that some good can come of this?
Oh, absolutely. I definitely think something will be done, something that is good for Mississippi and good for Mississippi families, and most importantly, good for Mississippi students. What that looks like at the end of the day, I'm not 100% sure yet because I don't sit on education.
Right.
But in all the talks and conversations that I've been in with leadership and with my House colleagues and even with some of my Senate colleagues, I do feel that we will have some form of education reform.
I understand that sometimes constituents don't want to hear about, it's difficult to thread the needle. But I'm curious from your perspective. You represent a district where the public school system is outstanding in DeSoto County. It's I think the biggest public school system in the state of Mississippi. There are a number of large schools that fall into your district, and many of the folks that are in the public school space have not been for school choice, at least not universal school choice. What have you heard from your people in DeSoto County with regard to universal school choice, the ability to have money follow students, even in some scenarios, from public schools to private schools?
Yeah, when you talk about DeSoto County, you are exactly right. We have our largest employer is the DeSoto County School District. We have some of the largest schools and some of the best performing schools across the state of Mississippi. And I'm extremely proud of that. I think our teachers, our administrators, they've done a fantastic job with our schools. And so I do hear that friction and that divide with, if we're doing so well, why do we need to change mid-stroke? And, I'm also reminded, as I talk with folks that are against it, I talk with a lot of parents that are really for it. I think back just about my childhood and my education, and, I was blessed. My parents, they didn't really come from much. And my dad, he was a soldier. He was able to bootstrap himself up to a success. And my parents, they picked where we lived in DeSoto County based off the school districts. But I also do real estate closings up here every morning. And there's people up here that do not have that option, do not have that ability to pick up and move out of their district into a better school district for their kids. And so, you know, as we talk about this education reform, it really is what's best for the student, what's best for the child. I think the parent knows that. In fact, I know the parents know that. I just know the parents don't all have the same options. And so, yes, we have great schools up here, yet we still have some challenges. And with giving families and parents the freedom to choose, I think it does actually help all students in Mississippi.
You are Vice Chair of Military Affairs. Are there any particular issues that you and your fellow committee members are focused on the military affairs side of things in this session in particular?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of military affairs. I don't know if you remember last year we had a bill that worked for health care for our service members, specifically for traditional service members who are not active duty, but that serve on our National Guard, similar to the ones being called up today to work this storm or this ice freeze up here in North Mississippi, giving them health care coverage in order to ensure that they remain ready, remain fit, and prepared for duty.
That was TRICARE, is that right?
That is. It's TRICARE. We passed it last year. I think it had a unanimous consent across the House. I know the Senate did as well. And then this year, the Senate picked it up early in the session and passed their version of it. And I anticipate that we will do the same, if not this week, then next week for our service members. So that's a big win. I don't think people understand how much our National Guard is called upon, not just overseas, but also domestically, and the kind of risks that they have to put themselves out for without adequate health care, which ends up forcing them being put out of the military, responding to a domestic call. So I think that's absolutely critical. It's huge. I feel really optimistic that we're going to get something passed in that space. But, you know, another thing I want to bring up, Richard, is last year we had the Save Our Service Member Task Force, which really aimed to get after veteran suicide and mental health challenges. And I don't know if you got the reports, but last year was a tough year for service members, tough year for veterans. And so we had a handful of hearings, and I do believe that we're going to do something in that space as well in order to give our Guard and our veterans the tools necessary to really go after this problem and see if we can not end veteran suicide and mental health challenges in Mississippi.
I'm curious, with your background with the Army National Guard, what's your reaction been to the way that National Guard troops have been deployed to some cities to help with public safety? We've seen it in some big cities. Obviously, Memphis, as part of that task force, there was a National Guard element there. We've seen it in Washington, D.C. and others. There was a lot of angst about that when it initially happened, although the results seem to have been positive in the places where that has been used. As a former, well, I guess even a current Guard member yourself, what is your reaction to the way that process has gone?
I think it's been phenomenal, and I challenge anyone that has any issues with it to go and visit these cities where the National Guard has been deployed. You know, I living so close to Memphis, am required to drive up there for work, 2-3 times a week. And I used to feel like driving up I-55 was like driving in Iraq. It was tough. It was hard to get through there. I felt like I was going to get ran over. There was no public safety. I would say go talk to the residents in Memphis. Go down to Bill Street, which many people have quit doing for years because of public safety. And now with the Guard there, you come back to a city that is running and operating just fine, especially when it comes to the public safety space. So the National Guard, man, I tell you, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. But these boys and girls that serve in uniform, especially in our states, they do a remarkable job. They tough resolve, and they really get after the mission, and they do all they can to accomplish it. And I think they've been successful everywhere they've been deployed.
Let's finish it up here and stick with the National Guard just for a second. We've got about a minute left. We hear that the National Guard is being deployed to a number of different places in North Mississippi to help with recovery. What are the capabilities of the Guard? Because we just talked about kind of going to cities and helping work with local law enforcement to make areas safer. Storm recovery is an altogether different deal. In a lot of ways, it feels like the National Guard's kind of a Swiss Army knife. What will their roles be in some of the local communities trying to help with storm recovery?
Yeah, we have so many different professions inside the National Guard, just in the state of Mississippi. But I'll tell you, all efforts are going to be first on recovery, making sure that we clear these main highways and these roads so that we can get our public workers in there to fix our streets and fix our power. But then we also have engineers, so I can see them also helping out restoring power to some of these communities, and helping with the traffic and the logistics piece of it, food, water, energy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the top priority, to make sure that our folks are safe.
Rodney Hall from the Mississippi House of Representatives out of DeSoto County, Vice Chair with Military Affairs. Mr. Representative, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you making time for us this morning. Stay safe and stay warm.
Thank you, Richard. You as well.
We'll talk to you again soon. Mornings with Richard Cross. We'll wrap up the 7 o'clock hour next.
Want to know what's being said in the halls of the Capitol? You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross continues on SuperTalk Mississippi.
I went down to the river to watch the fish swim by. But I got to the river so lonesome I wanted to die. Oh, Lord. And then I jumped in the river, but the doggone river was dry. She's alone.
Good to be with you this morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. During the break, was looking at the MDOT traffic website, and man, North Mississippi is a disaster on I-55, I-22, which is 269, Interstate 69 that turns into 22. Once you cross into, I guess Marshall County is where it changes over. But, man, oh, man, just kind of looking at some of the updates, just to the west of Holly Springs on Interstate 55. Expect delays of an hour and a half. There's a disabled vehicle with multiple disabled vehicles blocking the roadway. That's westbound, just west of I-55, so if you're making your way toward Memphis. If you go over to Interstate 55, between Batesville and all the way up through DeSoto County into the to the edge of Memphis, it's just... you've got some road work that has been going on there that is an ongoing issue. You look at I-55 just before exit 271 in Tate County, all lanes blocked southbound, hour and a half delay. Again, multiple disabled vehicles blocking the roadway. And really from Senatobia up through DeSoto County, it's like that. Based on some of the traffic cameras that you see, that you look at, there are places where traffic is moving a little bit, but you've only got one lane available, and it's not necessarily right lane or left lane. It's more of, you've got tire tracks that have thawed out kind of in the middle, and then you've got ice that is piled up in the other lane. And it's going to take a while to get this mess cleaned up, because you need the roadways you need to be able to rid them of the ice, but you've also got to get cars out of there. You've got to get the disabled cars. I was talking with a buddy during the break just a second ago. Brad White has sent me a message and said that he is happy to join us. I don't know that we've got time to do that right this second. We will try and check in the 8 o'clock hour with Brad White from MDOT He's the executive director at the Mississippi Department of Transportation. We'll try and do that at 8:20 this morning. So I'm kind of communicating over the air with Brad as we do that. But we'll get together with him. Keith Hayward is going to join us to start the 8 o'clock hour. He is the general manager and CEO with Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Association. They service primarily Lafayette County, but also spill over into some other counties as well. We'll talk with him about the response from Northeast Power and what it looks like in terms of progress in getting power back to houses and to businesses in their service area. Robyn Tannehill is going to join us just a few minutes after 8:30. She is the mayor of the city of Oxford, and she'll talk to us about Oxford's recovery and some of the things that are happening there. So we're going to do our best to get you all the information that we can as quickly as we can. Again, we'll try to check in with Brad White about 20 minutes from right now. Keith Hayward is going to join us to start the 8 o'clock hour. But, Lance, I know you go to that MDOT website from time to time, and you don't necessarily expect to see this many notifications at not quite 8 o'clock on a Wednesday morning in late January, but that's where we are right now.
Yeah, Don Walker, a friend of ours from Oxford, Mississippi, drove 4 Ole Miss students up to Memphis yesterday to get them to the airport. 6 hours there, 4 hours back.
Oh.
So, yeah, and overnight, obviously, the conditions got much, much worse. So please do not get out on the roadways today. Let the crews do what they need to do, and hopefully soon those will start thawing and clearing up for you. But, yeah, very dangerous, and I think yesterday there may have been a window, but I think that window shut.
Yeah. And the weather forecast is better, I suppose, than it has been. In so much as you're going to get temperatures that are above freezing today. You're going to get some sunshine that's going to help with the melt. But specifically, as we talk about the interstates, where you've got lanes that have been cleared and a lot of ice that has piled up in the other lane, it's going to take a while for all of that to melt. And it's not like we've got 65-degree temperatures. When we say it's going to be above freezing, we're talking mid-40s, kind of in a best-case scenario. So hopefully we can limit the traffic on the interstates, and the disabled vehicles that have, in some cases, been stranded there. I mean, you've had people that were running low on gas, stuck in their cars. Maybe they were able to catch a ride with somebody who was coming in a southbound lane or a northbound lane, depending on where they were stopped up. But there's also some self-preservation that was in place for a lot of the folks that were in that situation. Really, really bad situation. And, again, we'll try to check in with Brad White in about 20 minutes. Mornings with Richard Cross, 2 hours in the books with you on this Wednesday morning, the 28th of January. Thanks for being with us. Presented by Community Bank, communitybank.net.
One night stand, speeding my young life away. Tell me one more time, so I'll understand.
Your inside track on Mississippi politics. Yeah! Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
With you, it is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. We're presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams. Whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business, we're here every step of the way. Dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. Thanks for being with us all across the state of Mississippi this morning. Happy to welcome Keith Hayward now. He is the general manager and CEO at Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Association. Northeast is a power cooperative. They are primarily located in Lafayette County, but they also have service that spills over into Union County, into Pontotoc County, and into Marshall County. And Keith, I know it has been a very difficult week for you, for all of the staff that you've got, the line workers, the folks that are in the IT department trying to keep people updated, and everybody in between. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, it's good to be on, Richard. It's just unfortunate that we're having to go through this. You know, our membership got hit pretty hard just in April with like 5 storms coming through and every 2 weeks, and now we've got what I'm calling the worst ice storm I've ever been through. And I was here at 27, 28 years old, started running crews about that time when the 94 ice storm came. So I have a good reference point on ice storms.
Yeah.
I never thought I would see one that was worse than 94, but after taking an alternate route home yesterday and seeing some of the massive trees that have fallen, I think in certain bands, the way that this storm came through, we definitely have more ice loading than we had in 94. There's no doubt.
You know, I've worked in the sports arena for a long time, and sometimes coaches hate comparing players or teams from a past year to a current year. It's interesting to me that you brought that up. I'm curious what's different. There are a lot of people in North Mississippi that remember that 1994 ice storm. It certainly was devastating to Lafayette County. It might have been even more devastating in some of the Delta counties just to the west. And in fact, I spoke with somebody, I guess it was 2 days ago, that said, well, Oxford's getting what the Delta got, 31, 32 years ago. When you compare these two, what's different from that 1994 storm to what we've got this year?
Well, I don't want to take up too much time talking about the 94 storm, but
Sure.
There's a good bit of difference. I mean, the Delta, we certainly did not get what the Delta got in 94. I've got pictures still in my portfolio of ice on conductor that was nearly 6 inches in diameter, just an unbelievable amount over in the bean fields, without. So in 94, as far as our system, it started with about 5 inches of sleet. It started that night. I remember I was at a basketball game.
Yeah.
I think we were playing Florida. I can't remember, but I left the game to go and start restoring power. And I remember by that morning, you were just making ruts in the highway from strictly sleet. It was about 4 or 5 inches. And then about mid-morning, that turned over to some freezing rain. And then about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it started raining. Now, in our system, the difference is we had a lot of tree damage, same thing, but we had a lot of poles broke. And I think just from the inherent growth that we've seen, we probably only had 11,000 or plus meters back then. We were like 30,700 now. We've built new substations, we've built new tie lines, we've gotten stronger, and we spend about $2 million a year, a little over $2 million a year, keeping our right of way up. We get around. We went from a 6-year rotation to now a 4-year rotation, so we're able to get right back around our system every 4 years. We now clean the floor, which means we can get trucks in and out. And I think we're seeing, I'm just now getting the reports, because we'll talk about a little bit about the logistics of this storm, and the other difference is the cold weather, which has caused us a nightmare. But we're not getting the huge reports of poles down. We've got a lot of trees down. We got a lot of wire down. Our problem has been logistics getting out there because of this cold weather and the road conditions. The road conditions have been just absolutely horrible.
According to your website, a little over 30,000 members served. Currently, about 20,000 members still affected. And I'm assuming that means they are without power. Where are we right now? Because that's the question I know you've gotten it a million times. When is the power coming back on? I know it's not an easy answer. How do you answer that question right now?
Yeah, well, it's kind of tough as we're up to 350 linemen here, getting the logistics coming in. We have restored. We started at our estimates were 28,000 was the peak.
Wow.
Sunday morning. So we've gotten about 5,000 people back on. We got about 3,000 on yesterday. That's kind of what I'm judging, how quick the lines are coming on as we got people out there. We got people in every single community we serve, and from all over South Alabama, contractors, right-of-way crews, and all. Really just now, though, getting heavily geared up in that, because we had a good bit of problem. I was talking, I did an interview with Wall Street Journal the other day, and I think they quoted me on this. I think, in North Mississippi or in rural areas, these ice storms like this, they're our hurricane. You know, and you make plans, you know, like I said, I have a reference. I went to Katrina. So, you know, if you reference Katrina, we had 60 poles broke at Northeast Power in Katrina. So we restored all of our power in about 10 days. And then I went to the coast after they'd been out for 2 weeks, and they were just starting to get crews in because of logistical problems that they were having down in Katrina. Now, I'm not saying we've got any kind of problem like, you know, they had with the surge and all, but, you know, I worked their rural area, and it's very, very similar with the tree damage and the lines down. But when you have plans set up, and then you have the Armageddon coming, and you're the bullseye, those plans change. You know, we're not used to the city of Oxford having the damage that it had. So hotels that we had, you know, 40, 50 rooms reserved in, all of a sudden don't have electricity. You know, then you go to Tupelo. Well, Tupelo, you know, you didn't know if the storm was coming to Oxford or Tupelo. Tupelo has got problems too, and people have started taking those up. So we've had some logistical problems, and still having, you know, the city of Oxford lost water, so we had trouble with that issue with water and getting hotels swapped over, and then we finally got some power to hotels last night. You know, we had hotel rooms in Olive Branch. It's easy to get to Olive Branch, except yesterday, as you mentioned, we actually had some rooms up there. We said, well, guys, you're not going to be able to get to Olive Branch. And we talked to somebody, I had a friend of mine that went to Memphis. It took him 9 hours to get to Memphis. I said, that's just not possible. You're going to have to stay somewhere on location. We've had employees staying in our auditorium, and we've had linemen staying, you know, sleeping in pallets in our auditorium. So, you know, we have storm surge. We have other options to do, but it's hard to pull that trigger until you can kind of get the assessment. So as we're gearing up, hate to be long with it, we're starting to do a wave into the power system. So my time frame, as I believe we're going to get, we're working on 3-phase. We're focusing on the wells, trying to get people water, because there are a lot of people that don't have water or electricity. And we made a good headway on getting a lot of the wells on yesterday. We'll keep building to the 3-phase, and, you know, just the way this works, you know, we clear the 3-phase, and then we come back and work the single phase and the subdivisions and things of that nature. I believe we'll get most of our infrastructure up on the 3-phase in the next 2 to 3 days. I believe it'll take another week to 10 days to get all of the rest of the lines and things put back up. So I'm hoping a 2-week process, but I'll get a better feel for that a little bit later on today.
And I know that's not the news that a lot of people want to hear. They're hoping, maybe by the end of the week I'll have power. But if you're in one of those residential areas that had a lot of tree damage, and there are a number of neighborhoods that are in your service area that fall into that category, it's legitimately over a week before they could expect power back fully?
Yes, I mean, I can tell you that, you know, some might get power tomorrow, the next day, and some it may be over a week, but they need to be prepared for, you know, a long drawn-out process. I've seen a couple of the areas and gotten reports. I mean, it may take all day just for right-of-way crews to get in there and just try to get paths and stuff cleared out once we get in there. But we've got a lot of people here. We got a lot of equipment here. It's just a slow, tedious process. There's still a lot of ice loading, so it's very dangerous work. It's not just cutting limbs down. And a little bit of saving grace we have is our eastern side. We've got a pretty good force working over in the Lafayette Springs, Martintown, Union, and Pontotoc County areas. Their ice loading was not near as bad as it was right here in the center of Oxford. Yeah. We're not seeing near the damage over there to the trees. So we're hoping to make some good headway in those communities and then start, you know, really focusing in our forces.
Keith, I know there's a massive amount on your plate right now. I hope, if it's good with you, maybe we can check in again on Monday and kind of get an update going into the start of a new week with where you are and where service restoration is. Thanks so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Richard.
All right. That's Keith Hayward, General Manager, CEO of Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Association. Not necessarily the news that people were hoping for, but reality sometimes is better than sugar-coated mistruth, maybe? Mornings with Richard Cross. We'll check in with Brad White from MDOT coming up next.
From the Venable Glass, Mississippi in the know. One morning at a time. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
ICC is a ticking on down the line. But I'm a little overweight and my logbook's
C-Spire text line is open to you, 601-879-4395. That's the best way for you to join the conversation. If you would like to send pictures of where you are, whether it's in the Delta or some of the North Mississippi counties that have been affected by Winter Storm Fern. Perhaps Fern is going to become an expletive going forward. Send them to us, and we will share that information as best we can. As mentioned, Brad White, Executive Director of the Mississippi Department of Transportation, joins us right now. Brad, I've got two screens currently open in front of me with maps up. One of them is the outage map for Northeast Power. We were just talking with Keith Hayward, the CEO there. The other is the MDOT traffic map. I wish there were not so many notifications on both of these maps, but unfortunately that is the case right now. And our particular area of concern, I-55 and I-22, 269 in North Mississippi. What can you tell us this morning after what was a massive, massive mess last night?
Well, the situation that we've been facing is one that we feared. This was a severe storm, as you know, that covered a big swath through the state. It is a regional storm, so our sister states are dealing with similar situations back in their own areas. But we have I-22 westbound from Holly Springs to basically Potts Camp, where we have a traffic congestion. I-22 eastbound from Red Banks to I-269, and then, of course, I-55 from Batesville north into Tate County that have been shut down. And this is the area of the state that was just completely blanketed in ice throughout the storm, and then until yesterday did not see temperatures get above freezing, and only yesterday was it just a small part of the day.
Right.
Unfortunately, with ice, you cannot plow ice. Probably go into a little more detail than you want to know, but when you think of pavement, you can kind of picture a sponge or a coral reef. It's designed for water to go below the surface and drain out to the side. So when ice sets up in it and gets packed in, it becomes a very much of an immovable obstacle for our folks to deal with. And the only way to deal with it a lot of times is the sunlight and the warmer temperatures or above freezing temperatures that allows us to get it to a slushy material that can be shaved off. We have focused the last several days in trying to keep a lane of the interstates passable for emergency vehicles. And as we've pointed out the last several days, passable does not mean safe, and we've tried to urge people from getting on the roads if there was any way to avoid it. Unfortunately, we had situations where a lot of the 18-wheeler traffic that got on the interstate, we had some unusual situations where some of the drivers would stop in the interstate to get out to check their truck, and then when they would get back in would be unable to regain traction. That would cause stops. We had one trucker, I'm told, that unhooked from his trailer and left it in the interstate. And then, of course, when those situations happen, other motorists behind them begin to get impatient, try to go around them, getting into more ice, which caused more accidents. So today we've got all of our crews focusing on this area. They're bringing in materials. We're bringing in chemicals that hopefully can help expedite the melting of the ice. We're going to try some unconventional things from contractors bringing in milling machines that are used in the paving process to see if that can help break up some of the ice. Last night, the governor did convene a call with all of the agencies that would deal with this. The National Guard stepped up immediately with some of their emergency equipment that I think was successful in helping move some of the vehicles that were stuck, some of the larger trucks. The Highway Patrol obviously has been on the scenes trying to help keep people safe, but our message is still the same that it's been. If at all possible, we need people to stay off of the the affected areas of these roads, because we're not dealing with normal winter weather. We're dealing with a severe storm. And I think that that's not been appreciated, because you can go a little bit north or a little bit south of that. You've got sunny weather, and you've got, while it may be cold, you've got interstates and roads in the Jackson area, a little north of there, that look normal. But in this particular area, we've got inches of ice that has set in that cannot be plowed, and that until temperatures and Mother Nature cooperates is going to be in large part immovable.
And it looks like we've got a couple of days in the middle of the week, today and tomorrow, where temperatures are going to cooperate a little bit. But when you look at the longer range, there's another wave of pretty cold weather on the backside of this kind of going into the weekend. So that is not great news.
Well, our goal has been, we knew that we had, as was stated at the governor's press conference day before yesterday, we knew that we were going to have a 3-day window where there would be pockets of time in those 3 days that we would be able to have temperature get to a place and the sun shine into a place that we could break through and get the ice transformed to this slushy material that could be removed.
Right.
And I still feel confident that by the time we get to the end, if the weather will hold out like that by the time we get through that, we're going to be looking at a much different situation. Obviously, what complicates this is what we've discussed from the beginning. When we have a lot of traffic that are in spots that are dangerous, that become immovable, it just creates a whole set of other problems. I mean, last night when this happened, I mean, most of the wreckers would not get out, in the weather. It's not safe to be out. So as we stated at, I think, the first press conference the governor had, the issue we run into is when the temperatures continue to drop, when the sun sets, you've got a situation where it's not safe for your emergency vehicles to get down there. And we can't treat the roads when cars are on them. We can't continue that treatment. So it's an unusual situation. I think it's one that we've got some light at the end of the tunnel, and I feel confident that what we're doing is going to help. I think there's a large contingency of state agencies that are working on this along with local agencies, and we'll get to the light at the end of the tunnel.
Brad White is the executive director at the Mississippi Department of Transportation. I want us to go back to the very first thing you said and make sure people hear that correctly. You said there is a portion of Interstate 55 that is currently closed in its entirety. Is that right?
Well, the northbound lanes of 55 from Batesville north into Tate County, the Tate County-DeSoto County line, the last report I have is we still have vehicles stalled on the lane that was cleared to be passable. We've got people on the site, the National Guard's there, the Highway Patrol, other first responders, local emergency management, our MDOT crews are there to try to get the vehicles back moving. With the sun up now and all, I think we'll have a lot more success than we did through the night, although that they were able to get some vehicles moved last night. But for right now, I mean, I would advise anybody that can to avoid that area, because piling more vehicles into this area is not going to do anything but further complicate things.
Okay. Because it's a question that people are asking us, what was done before this storm arrived to prepare the interstates, northbound, southbound, in what were expected to be the affected areas? And then I guess a secondary part to that question, how much of what was done, whatever it was in terms of preparation, is negated by the fact that this is all freezing rain as opposed to snow or sleet that is more easily removable?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, I mean, this was a storm that's very unusual for Mississippi and for the South. I mean, that's the reason a lot of our surrounding states are facing the same thing, that this is the pockets of our states that impacted this. It was very severe. I mean, President Trump issued an executive order ahead of the storm for a dozen or more states throughout the region because they recognized that it was going to be unusual. We began pre-treating the roads 2 days in advance. I mean, we put out over 200,000 gallons of brine, which is a chemical substance that's supposed to set up on the roadbed that kind of slows the freezing process. that can be negated when you've got bad weather with a lot of rain that's coming in right up against the freezing weather, because the rain can wash some of those chemicals off. Obviously, we put out over 1,000 tons of salt in the area that is made to kind of allow for the salt to melt, not set up. But the sheer volume of what the Mother Nature brought was just, overcame it in certain pockets of the impacted area. And so that's why what you saw here on the interstate is you just saw ice setting up. And as I said before, you can't plow ice. I mean,
right.
When you see the plows being used, they're plowing snow, they're effective with snow, they're pushing slush out of the way when the ice begins to melt. The top layers of that can be pushed off so the layer underneath it can start to melt. Right. But when you have as many hours as we did in Mississippi, where you had freezing rain, you had sleet, you had ice set up, and then the temperatures remained freezing for such a long period of time, that presents problems that are just very irregular, very unusual.
Brad, forgive me for interrupting. We're up against a break. Can we check in again tomorrow morning and get an update with you?
Sure, happy to.
All right, let's do that. Thanks so much. Mornings with Richard Cross.
From the Seabrook.com.
Know where the news is going next. Mornings with Richard
Coming back in right now.
On SuperTalk, Mississippi.
If you want to drive a big limousine, I'll buy the longest one you've ever seen. I'll buy you tall, tall trees and all the waters in the seas. I'm a fool for you. If you want to...
Welcome back. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Your message is coming in on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. A lot of information for you this hour. It started with Keith Hayward with the Northeast Mississippi Electric Power Association, then Brad White from MDOT, and now we are joined by the mayor of the city of Oxford, Robyn Tannehill. It has been a tough few days, and you and your team with the city of Oxford keep on plugging. Good morning, Mayor. Thanks so much for your time.
Good morning, Richard. It has been a long few days, but I just got off of a call with all of my emergency management team, and the sun is out, and we're ready to do it again today.
What does today look like for the power workers, city utility, emergency management, kind of the entire team going into this Wednesday?
Well, it's, as you can imagine, all hands on deck, and we just kind of went through all of those different arms of this machine this morning. Our road crews got back out early this morning. This sunshine is so helpful in getting these roads cleared. They're hitting the high spots again today. We made a lot of progress yesterday. I posted last night all the roads that were cleared, and MDOT has been helpful too in getting that done on the highways. But road crews will be doing that, and then we'll transition them over to more debris removal. From an electric standpoint, we've got lots of crews in from Tennessee and Alabama, and today are expecting another 6 crews from Georgia. And they are starting at the front of a circuit and working their way down. Yesterday morning, we had 10 of 16 circuits down. We are down to 6 of 16. So 4 full circuits were restored yesterday, by 11:30 last night when they stopped. And, so they're back at it this morning at 6. And, we are giving it all we've got. You get something fixed and you think, several people have, said we got power and it only lasted for 30 minutes. Well, it only took 30 minutes for another tree to fall on that line. So, sure. It's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back in a lot of cases, but man, I've got the best team in America. We've got 250. We've been over 300 at some points at our warming station. We're trying to figure out today how to get portable showers. Hopefully Mima's going to be able to help us with that. And we're today asking for anybody that works in home health or has nursing skills. Most of the people that we have at the conference center, there are 250 some odd folks there this morning. Most of them have medical needs. We're excited that Baptist, we understand by this afternoon, is going to have maybe an on-site medical tent at both our shelter and the county shelter. And so we're dealing with a lot of medical issues, just, simple hygiene issues, Richard. I won't go into that, but we need help from some home health nurses. My city employees and firefighters are over there giving it all they've got and taking care of everybody. But that's going to be one of our requests today, is anybody that's a home health person, nursing skills, or just has passion for helping folks. We need you at the Oxford Conference Center.
I think one of the questions that a lot of people have is, how do you decide the order in which the power gets turned on? You mentioned at the worst point, 11 of 16 circuits were down for the city. Those start coming back on. And obviously you hear about the people that rejoice when their power comes back on. And then there are others like, well, why not me? Why did they get power first? How does that work in terms of not even hierarchy, but order, established order?
Sure. Well, you do the low-hanging fruit first. We did an evaluation of all 16 circuits first. So you find out where, the most poles are down, where the most severe damage to substations exists. And, so we got those with the least amount of damage on first. I mean, that was step one. Now we have folks that are starting at the front of every one of these circuits and just working their way down. So it's just a matter of how much damage is there. Every circuit is being worked on from crews from all over, as I mentioned. And so it's just a matter of the ones that are not up yet are the ones that have the most severe damage. And unfortunately, some of these circuits, we get the circuit up, but either trees have ripped the connection off of the home, or the connection from the circuit to the home directly is damaged. And so even, I've made some announcements based on what our Oxford Utilities is telling me if we have power back in this area. And then I'll hear from numerous people that say, no, I don't have power. But there are going to be some instances where an electrician is going to have to repair things, at houses before we can reconnect their power. So it is, the only things that were a priority from step one is your hospital, dialysis center, and all of the assisted living facilities. Those were our number one priority.
And are all of those back online?
They are.
Okay.
And that was our number one priority. People have said, why is City Hall a priority? Why is downtown a priority? Well, City Hall is where our servers are that are running every bit of information that we are managing. It runs Oxford Utilities. The server that's at City Hall does. And so it is, it's critical that be up. People are saying, the usage map, the electric outage map is not up, or you said you were going to update the map of road clearing. We try, and then it goes down again at City Hall, and that's what's driving a lot of the information. And know that when it goes down, that means our Oxford Utilities guys don't have access to that map of exactly where it's down either. And so it's, it is a process, but we're working on all 6 of those circuits right now, and we'll just see which ones get on first is based on how much damage is done to that circuit.
You and I visited briefly last night, and you told me that a number of state leaders have reached out and have offered assistance. What has that looked like, and what is it going to continue to look like moving forward for Oxford and, frankly, for surrounding areas that are dealing with this? Your focus is on your city, but you've got other mayors and leaders who are vying for resources as well for their towns that they've got to take care of.
That's right, Richard. It is. It has been so encouraging to hear from Delbert Hosbin and Michael Watson and Lynn Fitch have all reached out. Nicole Boyd, I'm telling you, you talk about a great state senator that works for her community. Nicole Boyd is in Jackson, and she and I are in constant contact, and she has been so helpful. We are hopeful that we will get some supplies from MEMA today. We got some water and MREs last night. That was our first shipment that we've gotten from MEMA. was last night. And so, we've had 4 days of managing this with, we couldn't wait on that. I mean,
Sure.
I've got 300 people that need 3 meals a day at the conference center. I can't wait 4 days to get them food. So, we have called in a company that we have a contract with now that's providing all the meals. They provided the cots. They will hopefully bring in portable showers today if we can't get those from MEMA. You can't wait. So we've done what we've had to do to get this ball rolling. Both Cindy Hyde-Smith and Roger Wicker have reached out and have offered any help that they can give at the federal level. So appreciate them checking in and checking on us. So it is encouraging. There are so many things that could be done better, but in Oxford, we are taking care of ourselves and putting all the pieces in place that need to be in place.
You told me a story, and I think you can get away with telling this on the radio, about a specific need and some equipment that the city used, and a local developer was very forgiving in the borrowing of some of his resources.
That's right. Well, we're at the stage now where it is much easier to ask for forgiveness than permission, right? So, yes, all the water went out at close to midnight the other night at the conference center. All the water went out, and we've got 300 people there that need bathrooms. Obviously, there are no porta potty folks you can call at that hour of the night. So I got my building and grounds guys to get a skid steer, take the snow blade off of it. We put a fork on it. We drove over to a development near the conference center. We cut the padlock off of the gate where all of their porta potties were, and we borrowed all of the porta potties and moved them all to the conference center. So, like I said, you've got to be resourceful, and we just got to make it happen. So that's what we're doing.
You make that work.
And that developer was so gracious when I called him to say, we've destroyed your lock, but we'll replace it. If you're looking for your porta potties, they're in front of the conference center. So.
Yeah. There's a long road ahead for the city of Oxford, for surrounding communities all over North Mississippi and in the northern part of the Delta as well. Let's talk about what the next few days look like. We've got to take a break. Robyn Tannehill is the mayor of the city of Oxford. She jumped out of a meeting early this morning to visit with us and try and get some of this information out. We certainly appreciate her time. Quick time out. Mornings with Richard Cross. We get the final segment of the show. We're going to continue throughout this week, and as long as it takes next week, getting you all the information that you need so that you can know what's going on. SuperTalk Mississippi. We're back with you right after this.
And a little about love, a lot about living and a little about love.
From the Venable. No filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
I was a dam builder.
No, everybody's got a lot going on. Especially appreciate the time from Mayor Robyn Tannehill joining us this morning. She's the mayor of the city of Oxford, and everybody is looking forward and hoping that forward is a light at the end of the tunnel and not an oncoming train at this point. It does feel like there is progress that is being made. What is your message to people either that are kind of in that helpless, hopeless state where they're not sure what to go, but then also the message for people that say, hey, I'm in about as good a place as I can be. How can I help?
Well, Richard, we need their help. And you and I talked about last night, we've got people across our community that are showing up in neighborhoods and just starting at the front with chainsaws and groups of guys to move trees and that kind of thing. So that is a great way to help. Volunteering at the shelter. We need you right now. So that's a great place to help. There are things, as you mentioned, I was in a meeting with my emergency management team right before this, and there's so many moving parts that no one could could realize until you're in the middle of this. But like today, we're trying to figure out how to get all of these linemen, hundreds of them that have come in to help us. We need to get all their clothes washed. So, we're now we're trying to find, different hotels and things that have commercial washers and dryers, and then I'm going to get some volunteers to go there. But they've got to bag their clothes and put their name on it because I got to get it back to them. And so there are all these moving parts and this whole network of people that are making this happen. I wish that I could tell you that the path forward was going to be easy, but it is so hard. This is the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life. And I'll tell you, probably the hardest decision that I've had to make as mayor was yesterday when my Oxford Utilities folks said we're going to have to sectionalize this water or the entire town is going to be out in the hospital. To have to tell people who don't have power that I'm turning your water off, it's tough. We have got people that are in such desperate situations right now, and it kills me to have to make those kind of calls. But
all right, is that a temporary shutoff? I think that was the way it was announced, right?
It is. That's right. It is a temporary suspension, and this morning our water tanks are filling up. I mean, I shouldn't say filling up. We are starting to see an increase of capacity in these water tanks, but it's becoming more apparent that we must have a water main break somewhere. So crews yesterday spent the entire day walking all the major water mains trying to find a leak. Understand, though, it's hard to find a leak when all the ground is wet, everything's melting, there's still ice everywhere. So, it's not like a regular sunny day where you're like, oh, well, clearly there's the leak. We've got this water pooling. Right now there's water pooling everywhere from all the snow that's melting and so the ice that's melting. So, we are hopeful that in a few hours our water capacity will be to a point that we don't have to take further steps. But that everything's on the table right now, Richard. Just, what you see is what you get here. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's just the truth of it. There may be additional hard decisions that have to be made today.
Let me ask you this, and this is almost a personal question from me. So my family is now staying with my wife's parents because they've got power. We're leaving water dripping in our sinks so that pipes don't freeze, which is, it can exacerbate the problem. Are we at a point where we are better off and others that might be in a similar situation are better off to shut off their water at the meter and do the best they can to drain their pipes and just leave it off?
Yes, absolutely. If that is possible, please do that.
Okay.
We put out a plea yesterday morning telling people it's getting above freezing, so please turn off all of your faucets that are streaming and dripping. And we thought that we would begin to see an increase of capacity. That was our first change that we tried to put in place, hopeful that was part of the drain on the water capacity. We didn't see any increase in capacity after that request. But now I'll tell you that I've gotten so many messages from people saying, well, I left town, but I left all my sinks running. I didn't want my pipes to freeze, but I've left town. There's nobody there to go turn it off. And I think that's the case in a lot of, I think there are a lot of folks and students that left apartments and houses and, I understand left all their faucets streaming. Yeah. And we can't get to them obviously to get all those off. So anybody that can turn off streaming, we beg you to.
Last thing for you, we talked with Keith Hayward earlier. He said it's a hard process. There are some people in some heavily affected neighborhoods that are going to be 10 days to 2 weeks before they have power out. Is that a reality for the city, or is the timeline maybe a little more optimistic?
I think our timeline's a little more optimistic. Understand, though, that Keith has, I don't even know, at least 2 to 5 times more area that he's covering than Oxford Utilities covers. Sure. And much more rural areas. And so that would make perfect sense to me that his would take that long. We are more hopeful. And, each day you're going to see more power come on.
Mayor Robyn Tannehill, thanks so much for your time. All the best, and a lot of prayers for you and your team across the state of Mississippi. We'll talk soon.
Thanks so much, Richard. Have a great day.
Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi. We're back with you tomorrow morning at 6 o'clock. We'll keep getting you the information that you need. Thanks for being with us. Presented by Community Bank.
Your home. A Super Talk Mississippi media production.